So I think traditionally I've thought of the racket drop and racket lag as a passive process that happens as you initiate the leg drive. And my understanding comes in large part from studying Dr. Brian Gordon's work and Rick Macy's work. But then I was watching some slow motion footage of Sinner and Djokovic over the weekend, and it seems to me that they get a much earlier extension and racket drop than I would have thought about. It almost seems like an intentional thing. Obviously it looks a little bit different. Sinner's racket is in that position, Djokovic is more in that position, but they both get, or seem to get, their extension before they actually initiate the real driving forwards of the hip. So I wanted to play around with it myself and see how it would affect my forehand. For those of you who haven't seen my channel before, I'm naturally a right-handed player, but unfortunately injured myself, so I'm having to relearn to play left-handed. So it was my left-handed forehand that I was working on. I was really trying to get an early extension and racket drop before I fired my hip. And I found almost immediately that it seemed to improve my timing. It gave me more power and it gave me a more stable contact, which was very inspiring. But then when I went and watched it back on camera, I wasn't really getting an early extension. So I thought I was. In my head, the ball was coming. I'm like, yes, I've almost got a straight arm. And then I watched it back and that wasn't what was happening at all. It was only a tiny bit sooner than I'd done it previously, which is why it's so important to record yourself, because sometimes you think you're doing it, but then when you watch it back, the reality suggests otherwise. But today I'm going to work on it again. So this time I'm going to continue the process. I'm going to really think about trying to get that early racket drop, and then I'm going to see how it affects things, and I will upload the videos here, or add the videos to this video, and then make some comments afterwards. Just finished the practice session and it went okay. Definitely not the best at the start. I was trying to focus on getting early extension, but I wasn't quite getting the spacing. And that's really the linchpin that holds everything together for me. If I get too close, it messes everything else up, and that's what I was doing at the start. And that's kind of when you watch Sinner, when you watch Djokovic, when you watch Alcaraz, they've always got amazing spacing on the forehand, and that spacing then allows them to do the other stuff. So for me today in the practice session, once I kind of refocused on the spacing as well, it started to go much better. I wasn't getting the same level of easy power that I was getting the other day. The contact wasn't as good, the timing wasn't as good, but I think that's mainly because I was hitting from an open stance, so it was a slightly trickier ball than the other day. I was hitting from an open stance rather than a neutral stance, and I'm definitely still way more comfortable in a neutral stance on my forehand. So I need to continue to work on the open stance. I'm going to continue to work on this timing, because when I get it right, it feels good. There just isn't enough that were good. There was more that were kind of late and not quite sequenced in the right way. I had a quick look on the kind of the small screen, because I generally use a GoPro to record on, and you can't really see in good detail. So I had a look on the small screen, and it looked like I was kind of doing an okay-ish job at getting this early racket drop. But I'll go home, I'll put it on a big screen, have a look at it in slow motion and see what actually happened. So watching it back in slow motion, I definitely did a better job than I did on day one of getting this early racket drop. So I'm getting a little bit of extension there before I start throwing the hip forwards. Now I've just watched a couple of videos, so I'm kind of going through them in order, seeing how it progressed, and it definitely progressed as I went through the training session. So this is one of the later videos, and I think I'd kind of got the spacing down a little bit better, and I'd started to kind of dial in what I was working on, and I was doing a better job. So a progression from last time, actually that one's a good example, but you can see that you can see that the sequencing isn't perfect. Like, it's not quite as clean as it needs to be. I'm not quite using my kinetic chain in the way that Djokovic and Sinner does. There's a shock. Of course I'm not using my kinetic chain in the way that they do when I'm playing left-handed, and even if I was playing right-handed, because they are ridiculous tennis players. But I'm not using my kinetic chain as optimally as I can do. Obviously, I'm going to keep on trying to work on that, because when I did get it right, some of them I did get good biomechanics, and it felt very smooth and very effortless.
but obviously not all of them, but that's to be expected. When you start implementing a technical change, it takes a little bit of time to get used to it. And because I'm changing kind of a component of the timing, it also takes a period of time to adjust to what you're doing. So I'm definitely going to persist because it feels very good when I get it right. So to feel so good so soon after making a change, I think that's a really positive sign. So I'm going to keep persisting and see how far I can get with it. So that was my practice session today. Hopefully you've picked up some useful things from it that maybe you can test out and try within your own game. But as always, it's a case of addressing the underlying problems that you've got going on. So it's a really good idea to record yourself like I've done here to kind of find out what it is that you need to work on. I also want to let you know about a free Tennis Vision starter program that I've created to help you improve your ball tracking. Back when I was playing right-handed, I had to do a lot of vision training to address some visual issues that I was dealing with. And that vision training really helped me to kind of get to the highest level that I got to with my right hand. And that's why I like to teach other players how to train and improve their visual system as well. So I'll place a link to that free Tennis Vision program down in the description, or you can go to tennishacker.net/vision to get hold of the free program. Any questions or comments about what I've covered here today, leave them in the comment section. If you found it useful or you enjoyed it, give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel before, it always really helps me out if you could do that as well. Okay, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.